You guys just missed the mission course. But we designed a mission patch, and I'll present one right now to the museum, but we'll show it to you. Launch director giving the final okay to launch. First thing is the 3 engines light up, and then the solid rocket boosters. And you'll know when the solid rocket boosters light up. The noise level goes up in order of magnitude.
Discovery, roger. There goes the PD cap firm. Let's go ahead and check the
we close our visors, turn on our oxygen, in case there's a depressurization, protect it. Solid rocket boosters. At this point, I'm saying, what did I get myself into? The solid rocket boosters are on for 2.5 minutes.
You see less than 50? Copy, Jose. All right. 103, teaming goes. They look good. You can have that.
2.5 minutes, the solid rocket boosters separate. They come down on the ocean 200 miles from the coast, parachute via parachute, and are recovered because they're reusable.
Copy, Jose.
Now the center tank is feeding the 3 engines.
There it is.
For 6 more minutes, total 8.5 minutes of power
If you
flight.
want to. Good. All right, good job. All right. Let's work in hard at tank. And I'm waiting for the 20-second plus X.
Final stages of power
Lift up in your
flight.
seat. There it goes.
And there's separation from the external tank. Top portion is the belly of the shuttle, and then you see the orange tank.
1 potato, 2 potato.
The tank comes back in the atmosphere, breaks up into pieces, falls over the Indian Ocean. 8.5 minutes later, we're in space, 17,500 miles an hour, going around the world. And you see me giving a thumbs up because I'm a bona fide astronaut at that point. You can see the all the controls, displays that we have to keep track of. And then I throw something in front, make sure it floats. Gotta convince myself that I'm in space. One of our crewmates was a woman, Nicole Stott, that fellow engineer. Kevin Ford, our pilot, first-time flyer like myself. We had an international flight. Christopher Fuglesang from Sweden did the honors of opening up the payload bay doors. One of the first things we do when we get up in space, because we have the radiators on the inside portion of the payload bay doors to initiate cooling. Down in the mid-deck where we had the 3 astronauts sitting, we put away the chairs that they were sitting at. We do important stuff like activate the kitchen galley and the bathroom. Very important stuff. You can see the bathroom right there. And then we activate some of the computers that we have to network. These are the computers that are going to help us rendezvous to the International Space Station. Our commander is the last one to come down from the flight deck to change to street clothes. One of our objectives was to get Nicole Stott to the International Space Station. We were going to do a crew rotation. She stays behind and we bring someone home who's been up there for 3 months. You see us working on the psycho-ergometer. We don't walk anymore, we're floating. So we gotta exercise 30 minutes a day, keep our leg muscles strong. Every morning we do the same thing we do at home, brush our teeth, shave, eat a good breakfast, and start the day's agenda. That first day we're there, we fired the OMS engines, orbital maneuvering system engines, to get us closer to the International Space Station. There you see Pat Forrester and Nicole Stott looking through binoculars from about 20 miles away of what's going to be Nicole's home for the next 3 months, the International Space Station. We enter the rendezvous phase of flight, which means we're going to go and attach ourselves to the International Space Station. There we are about 600 yards away. This is the view of the astronauts on the station of us. Notice how we do a flip maneuver. We do that ever since Colombia, so that we can take pictures of our underbelly and make sure our thermal protection system did not get damaged on the way up. Finally, we then get the okay to do proximity operations, which means we do the, we physically connect ourselves to the international
Route
space.
TCS 0.07.
Copy?
HHL is maybe about 0.06.
Here comes a BN, I'm gonna do it.
Okay?
Should get it back in the
Yeah,
middle, so
that's
we
okay,
have
yeah.
a good, firm idea of what it
Yeah,
is.
that's exactly text awareness about that.
Yeah,
Okay. I think you guys have to about 0.09 there, so that's nice.
that worked good.
And the shuttle on the bottom, they're gonna dock
That's more
together
like-
via the two docking rings.
Big pedal overlap on that side.
Don't move your hand.
See if you guys can tell when we finally make physical contact with the station.
Pedal
You'll
overlap.
see us bump into it very gently. I'll tell you when.
Good closure.
Right there.
Capture fire.
So we make physical contact, we want to make sure we didn't come in too fast, because if we come in too fast, we can slip them off.
And Houston from Discovery.
So we're verifying.
All right.
Good job.
So after a successful dock, we now open the access hatches so that we can get into the International Space Station. The crew on the International Space Station does the same. Now we got this neat little tunnel where we can go from the shuttle to the International Space Station. On the other side, 6 members of the International Space Station. The commander is the Russian, because we alternate between an American and a Russian for who's commander. So a Russian did come in handy. His name's Gennady Pedalka. Our commander's the first one to come in. He's the one with the red hat. And now all 7 of us are on board. 7 plus 6, that's 13 astronauts at the same time in space, representing 5 countries. Truly an international effort. And notice how the folks from the International Space Station are happy to see us. Not because we're good buddies, but because they know we have fresh fruit and vegetables. You see that cylinder that we just grappled with the robotic arm? We're going to install it on the International Space Station. There's a docking ring there, and that was one of my jobs as well once we were up there. Aside from being the flight engineer, I was one of the principal robotic arm operators. So we dock it to the International Space Station. Our second objective, the first one was to take Nicole up there and bring somebody else home, Tim Copra. Our second objective was to dock this guy and then have access to it from the inside of the station so that we could transfer more than 7 tons of equipment, experiments, food, and water that we're bringing to the International Space Station. So we're a high-price delivery truck, if you will. And there you can see us beginning the unloading of the some of the original things that are just out there. We just staged this so we could film it, but you can see what kind of supply chain we established, and pretty easy to move things in space because you just have to push them away, and there they go. Here you see Nicole moving a experiment rack from the shuttle and reinstalling it on the International Space Station. Why is she doing that? She's doing that because it's her experiment. And remember, she's staying behind, so all her experiments stay behind, go with her as well. Every day we meet and we see where we're at with respect to our jobs, where we're behind, ahead. You can see orientation's not an issue. You know, I told him that he was upside down, and he said, no, you guys are. Turns out no one's right or wrong, because we're in zero-G environment. Tim Copra, the guy in the blue shirt, he's the one that's coming home with us. He and I had the distinct pleasure of being the suit engineers. What's a suit engineer? We're the ones that actually dress up the astronauts and prepare them for their spacewalk. They can't dress themselves up because the suits are too bulky. And so we help them and put on the suits with them to make sure that there's no leaks on the gloves, the boots, the helmets, make sure that the camera's working, communication system's working, life support system's working. Everything's got to be working before they go out. This is the only thing that's keeping them alive. It takes about 2.5 hours.
And Nicole, your right waist tether for the forward UIAD ring.
And I can confirm my first tether forward UIAD ring is started up.
Great, Danny, I see the airlock thermal cover is open. You can egress the airlock. Remember to avoid that MMOD strike.
Roger that.
And this is how you initiate the spacewalk. You basically open the outside door after depressurizing the cabin that they're in. They go out and they initiate the spacewalk. Those orange handles are the handles they use to translate from one place to another. You can see the Earth in the background, and so they begin their spacewalk. We have cameras on their helmets so we can see their hands, but when they come across a shiny surface, we can actually see their reflection. Here you see Danny Olivas taking a picture of himself with the camera, and they could also see us in the cabin of the shuttle. When we have to translate them to faraway places, we use the robotic arm. So I'm sort of like their space taxi. I take them to one place, they load up with equipment, and then I take them to another place on the International Space Station. Recall the International Space Station is as big as a football field. The robotic arm actually saves a lot of time when we take it from one place to another. But as we take it from one place to another, you can see the spectacular views they have. I mean, they were just they were in awe whenever I was taking them. And now I see why when I see the pictures. And remember, we go around the Earth once every 90 minutes. We get 45 minutes of daylight, 45 minutes of nighttime. When it's nighttime, we just tell them to turn on their lamps and keep working, because time is too valuable. After about 7 hours of being out there, they start running out of consumables. It's either air or battery power, so it's time for them to come in. And we let them in, and you got to remember it took about 2.5 hours to prepare them. They've been out there for 7 hours, so that's almost 10 hours of being in that spacesuit. So these guys are tired, they're hungry, they're not thirsty because they have a little bag with a straw to drink water, but if they drank all the water, I could almost guarantee you they want to go to the restroom. So we try to undress them as quickly as possible so they can go get something to eat, get some rest, because they have 2 more spacewalks. Our third objective was to do 3 spacewalks out in space. While these guys are doing their spacewalks, we have other astronauts busily unloading the 7 tons of equipment that we brought over. Here you see a couple of my colleagues move about a 500-pound treadmill. And it's easy to move in space because it floats. You just got to push it and maneuver it. But this is a treadmill. We brought a treadmill over so the astronauts can continue exercise in space. There's the tracks for the treadmill. Our commander, Red Hat, he's the one that basically had control of that room so that we could log in and out all the equipment that was coming out and being stored in the right place in the International Space Station. You want to put it in the right place because if you put it in the wrong place, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. The station is humongous, and if you don't put things in the right place, you're going to waste a lot of time looking for things. Here you see me rotate a rack, because behind the rack, there's even more equipment. There's even more equipment behind the rack that we need to move and store on the International Space Station. Here you see my commander taking a delicate piece of equipment, and then we use our feet as another pair of hands here. And I'm not sure why the computer is acting herky-jerky, but we'll try and deal with it. They must have other applications open. But then, we take some time to play in space as well.